The alarm did not sound like an alarm. It sounded like the whole building was breathing, and then it screamed. I woke up strapped into a chair made for something with a spine twice as long as mine, in a room full of creatures who looked like they had been designed by something that only understood teeth. My name is Ethan Cole, and 3 minutes earlier I had been asleep. Now a 7-foot-tall being with silver scales was leaning over me, sniffing the air near my neck like I was something on a menu. "Confirmed," said a flat voice from a speaker somewhere above us. "Apex Predator, Biological Class, Station 4. Welcome to your first day." I did not feel like an Apex anything. I felt like a mistake, and it turned out I was exactly that. 3 weeks earlier, back on Earth, I had filled out an application for something called an Advanced Combat Sciences Exchange Program. It promised travel, a scholarship, and free housing. I was 23, broke, and tired of my apartment's broken heater. I did not read the part in tiny print that said the program operated under galactic jurisdiction. I did not know there was a galaxy with a jurisdiction. I signed my name, uploaded a blood sample from a routine health app, and went back to eating cold noodles. 2 days later, a light came down from the sky in my backyard, and a machine voice told me I had been accepted. That is how a tired line cook from Ohio ended up strapped into a chair on an alien space station, staring into the black eyes of a scaled giant, listening to a computer call me an apex predator. The silver-scaled being straightened up and looked at another creature nearby, this one with fur the color of rust and claws like kitchen knives. "This is wrong," the furred one said. Its voice came out low, rough, translated by a small device clipped near its throat. "It has no claws, no fangs. Look at it. It could not catch a rock if you handed it one." "The scanner does not lie," said the voice from the ceiling. "Species human. Biological marker profile matches long-term apex predator behavior. Confirmed extinction level impact on at least 6 large land species during its own evolutionary history. Admission stands." I raised my hand like I was back in 3rd grade. "Excuse me. I think there has been a mistake. I applied for a scholarship. Nobody said anything about being a predator or extinction or any of this." Nobody answered me. The straps on my chair released with a hiss, and I was pulled to my feet by a guard made of what looked like moving stone. I did not fight. There was nothing to fight with. I was one soft, unarmed man surrounded by an entire species built like tanks with opinions. They walked me down a long hallway lined with windows showing stars I did not recognize, past classrooms where creatures twice my size practiced pouncing on training dummies, past a gym where something with 4 arms was doing chin-ups on a bar thick as a tree trunk. Every single creature stopped what it was doing to stare at me as I passed, not with fear, with confusion, the way you might look at a kitten wandering through a wolf den. They dropped me in front of a door labeled, in glowing letters that my translator earpiece turned into English, "Orientation, Predator Academy, Sector 9. Inside, a woman with pale blue skin and no visible ears sat behind a desk covered in floating screens. She looked up at me, and her eyes went wide. "You cannot be here," she said. "I agree completely," I said. "Can someone please send me home?" She tapped at her screens fast, her fingers a blur. "The system says your application was accepted under the Apex Predator Intake Protocol. Admission is locked for the full term once biological confirmation occurs. There is no reversal process. None. This has never happened before. So what happens to me?" She looked at me for a long moment, the way you look at something you feel sorry for. You attend classes, you survive the trials, or you do not, and the school removes your file at the end of the term. That last part did not sound like a joke to me, but her tone suggested she was not expecting much resistance from something so plainly outmatched. She handed me a small metal disc that turned out to be my schedule, dormitory key, and meal card all in one, and told me class began in 1 hour. I want to be honest with you. In that hour, sitting alone in a small gray room built for a body twice my size, I thought about giving up. I thought about crying, actually, and I am not ashamed to say I came close. But then I thought about my mother, who worked 2 jobs my whole childhood, and never once said the word cannot. And I thought, if I am stuck here, I might as well figure out how to not die. My first class was called Tracking Fundamentals. The instructor was an old creature with drooping skin folds and small eyes that missed nothing, named Instructor Van. He explained in a bored tone that every apex predator on record tracked prey through scent, vibration, or heat signature. He released a small drone into a simulated forest and told us to find it using our natural senses. The other students moved like smoke, heads low, nostrils flaring, picking up trails I could not begin to see. I stood there smelling nothing but recycled air and feeling my heart pound in my ears. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I thought about it like a puzzle. The drone had to follow rules. It had a battery, so it had a maximum range. It had to avoid detection, so it likely avoided open ground. I looked at the terrain, not with my nose but with my eyes, and I noticed a patch of disturbed leaves near a fallen log, the kind of disturbance a hovering machine might make if it dipped low to hide from taller predators walking upright. I followed the pattern of disturbed ground, not scent, and 20 minutes later, while 3 of my rust-furred, silver-scaled, 4-armed classmates were still sniffing in circles, I reached under the log and pulled the drone out myself. The room went quiet. Instructor Van looked at me the way you look at a calculator that suddenly starts speaking. "Interesting," he said, and wrote something down. Word got around fast that the soft one had found the drone first. I did not think much of it at the time. I thought it was luck, but over the following days a pattern started to form that I did not expect. In physical combat drills I lost every single match. My body simply could not compete with claws, natural armor, or raw strength. A cadet named Dorvan, built like a mountain with orange stripes across his chest, knocked me down in less than 4 seconds during our first sparring session, and stood over me shaking his head like I had personally wasted his morning. But in the survival simulations, something strange kept happening. When food was scarce, my classmates hunted hard and fast and then rested, burning huge amounts of energy in short bursts. I could not match their speed, so instead I paced myself, walked slowly, drank water often, and kept moving long after the others had stopped to recover. In one exercise designed to last 6 hours, half the class dropped out from exhaustion by hour 3. I finished the full 6 hours, tired, sore, but standing, because I simply refused to stop moving. An instructor named Instructor Rayla, a tall woman with feathers instead of hair, pulled me aside after that test. "Your body is weak," she said, not unkindly, just stating a fact the way you might comment on the weather. "But something in you does not know how to quit. That is unusual." "On my planet," I said, "we call that Tuesday." She did not laugh. I do not think her species understood jokes yet. But she wrote something down too. Word of the soft one who would not quit spread through the dormitories. Some cadets found it funny. Others found it unsettling. A young cadet named Talia, with dark green skin and quiet golden eyes, sat next to me one evening in the dining hall and asked me directly why I never seemed afraid, even when I was clearly outmatched in every physical way. "I am afraid," I admitted, "all the time. I am terrified right now, honestly. But being afraid does not mean stopping. It just means being careful while you keep going." She tilted her head, the way people do when they hear something in a new language for the first time. "That is not how predators think where I come from. We are trained to strike first, strike hard, and end things quickly. Waiting is weakness. Where I come from," I said, "waiting is how we caught things faster and stronger than us for thousands of years. We are not fast, we are not strong, but we do not stop, and eventually, everything gets tired before we do." She did not respond right away, but she kept sitting near me at meals after that. Not everyone was so open-minded. Dorvan, the striped cadet who had flattened me in our first match, made it clear he considered my presence at the academy an insult to real predators everywhere. He would knock over my tray in the dining hall, call me the accident in front of other students, and once challenged me to a public match just to humiliate me further in front of the entire dormitory. I lost that match too, badly, in under 10 seconds. But instead of walking away satisfied, Dorvan leaned down and said quietly, so only I could hear, "You should not be here. You will not survive the final trial, and everyone will finally see you removed like the mistake you are." I did not answer him. I just filed the comment away, the way you remember an insult from someone you plan on proving wrong later. The final trial was called the Apex Gauntlet, and it was, according to every rumor floating through the dormitory, the hardest test the academy gave. Cadets would be placed in a massive simulated biome, part forest, part open plain, part rocky highland, with 3 objectives. Locate and secure a marked target object hidden somewhere in the terrain. Avoid or outlast rival cadets who were also hunting the same object. And survive until extraction, 6 hours later, no matter what. The night before the trial, I could not sleep. I lay in my small dormitory bed staring at the ceiling, running through everything I had learned. I was not the strongest student in that academy. I was not close. But I had noticed something during my time there that none of my classmates seemed to notice about themselves. Every single one of them relied on instinct. They struck fast, tracked by scent, fought hard, and rested when tired, because that is what their bodies and biology told them to do. It worked beautifully for them, most of the time, but it also made them predictable. A creature that always follows instinct can be studied. It can be anticipated. It can, if you are patient and clever enough, be outsmarted. The morning of the trial, 30 of us were placed at different points around the massive simulated biome. Instructor Van's voice echoed across the terrain through hidden speakers, announcing the start of the gauntlet. I did not run toward the center of the biome like most of my classmates did. Instead, I found high ground early, a rocky outcrop overlooking a wide stretch of forest, and I watched. I watched which direction groups of cadets moved in. I watched where the terrain naturally funneled movement, and I built a rough picture in my head of where the marked target object was most likely hidden, based on which areas nobody seemed to be searching yet. By hour 2, I had found a small stream that fed into a rocky cave system, an area everyone else had ignored because their noses picked up nothing interesting there. Using logic instead of scent, I guessed correctly that the target object, being made of a strange metal designed to mask its signature, had been placed somewhere that would specifically avoid detection by smell. The cave system fit perfectly. Inside, after nearly an hour of careful searching, I found it, a small glowing marker hidden behind a fall of loose stone. But finding it was only the beginning. The moment I picked it up, a signal went out across the entire biome, alerting every other cadet to my exact location. Within minutes, I heard movement outside the cave, a lot of movement. I looked around and realized I had trapped myself. The cave had only one real exit, and standing at that exit, blocking my path, was Dorvin, flanked by 2 other cadets, all of them staring at me with the same look Dorvin had given me during our match, like they had already decided how this would end. "Hand it over," Dorvin said, "and maybe I let you walk out of here in one piece." I thought fast. I did not have claws. I did not have strength. But I did have something they did not expect me to have: patience, and a mind that had spent the last several weeks studying exactly how predators like them behaved under pressure. "You can have it," I said, holding the marker up where they could see it clearly. "But first, tell me something. How long have you 3 been standing in that exact spot?" Dorvin frowned, confused by the question, which was exactly what I wanted. "Long enough," he said. "Long enough for the cave entrance behind you to start collapsing?" I asked, pointing past his shoulder. It was a bluff, mostly. I had noticed, while searching the cave earlier, that the stone above the entrance was loose and unstable, shifting slightly with vibration. 3 heavy predators standing in one spot for several minutes, growling and pacing, had been sending small vibrations through that same unstable stone the entire time I was talking to them. I was betting that predators trained to react instantly to danger would not stop to think logically before reacting to a threat, even an uncertain one. All 3 of them looked up. That single moment of distraction was all I needed. I dropped low, slipped between Dorvin and the cave wall while his attention was still on the ceiling, and ran. I did not outrun them for long. Within a minute, I could hear them behind me, closing distance fast, because on flat ground, there was no version of this story where I was faster than they were. So I did not try to outrun them. I ran toward the stream instead, the same one that fed into the cave, and threw myself into the water, letting the current carry me downstream and around a bend, out of their direct line of sight. Predators like Dorvin relied on scent and sight to track prey. Moving water erases scent trails almost completely, and the bend in the stream broke their line of sight just long enough for me to climb out on the opposite bank, soaked and shaking, but with the marker still clutched tightly in my hand. I did not stop moving after that. I kept low, moved through thick brush where their larger bodies would struggle to follow quickly, and used the remaining hours of the trial to simply stay ahead, one small decision at a time, never resting long enough to be caught, never moving so fast that I exhausted myself completely. By the time the extraction signal finally sounded across the biome, I was standing in a small clearing, exhausted, scraped up, soaked through, but alive, and still holding the marker. When the instructors gathered all 30 cadets back at the central platform, Instructor Van read out the results in his usual bored tone. Most cadets had failed to locate the target at all. A handful had located it but lost it in combat with rivals. Only 1 cadet had located the target, evaded multiple direct challenges, and successfully retained it through the entire trial. He said my name. The dormitory went silent. Dorvin, standing near the back, soaked from his own time in the biome, stared at me with an expression I could not fully read, something between anger and, oddly, respect. Instructor Rayla approached me afterward, her feathers slightly ruffled from the wind outside. "In all my years teaching this academy," she said, "I have never seen a cadet win the gauntlet without a single physical advantage. You are not stronger than any student here. You are not faster. Explain to me how you did this." I thought about how to answer that honestly. "On my planet," I said, "we were never the strongest animal in any forest. We were not the fastest, or the toughest, or the best armed. What we had was patience, and the ability to keep going long after everything stronger than us had given up. We hunted animals faster than us by simply refusing to stop following them, sometimes for days, until they collapsed from exhaustion and we did not. That is not something your scanners can measure with claws or fangs, but it is real, and it is why I am still standing here. She was quiet for a long moment, then wrote something down in her notes, something I never got to read. Word of the gauntlet result spread through the academy within a single day, and then, through channels I did not fully understand, it spread beyond the academy entirely. Other schools across the galaxy, ones that trained different apex species, began requesting details on the human cadet who had outsmarted an entire trial designed for creatures with claws and fangs and instinct honed over millions of years. The administration, I later learned, quietly amended their entrance scanner protocols within the month, adding a specific exclusion for human biological markers, citing concerns about unpredictable evolutionary variables. It was, in its own bureaucratic way, an admission that they had made a mistake letting me in, and an even bigger admission that the mistake had worked out far better for me than for them. But by then, the story was already out. I heard whispers in the hallways from cadets of species I had never even met, all asking the same question. Was it true that a human, soft, clawless, unarmed, had beaten an entire academy's finest trial using nothing but patience and thought? I never claimed to be the strongest thing in that academy. I still lost most of my one-on-one matches. I still could not outrun, outfight, or outmuscle almost anyone there. But somewhere along the way, without meaning to, I had proven something that no scanner had bothered to measure before letting me in by mistake. Being a predator was never really about claws or fangs or speed. It was about never being the thing that gave up first. They enrolled me by accident. I do not think, looking back, that the galaxy ever fully understood what that accident actually let loose. But I will tell you this much. From one tired human sitting in a room full of monsters who never expected me to still be standing at the end of it all. They should have read the fine print.